Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll give it a couple minutes here just for some folks to get into the room, and then we'll get started. All right, well, let's get started. I'll start with some introductions here. My name is Joe. I'm going to be telling you all about tracks and checklists today. To give you a little background about myself, I am in Buffalo, New York. I've been working with the Campus Groups product for over 4 years now. So, really excited to be showing you about tracks and checklists. So, the goal here is I'm just going to do a quick overview of what it looks like to, as a user, to access a tracker or checklist, kind of the purpose behind it, and then a little bit about what building these look like. Um, from there, we'll answer any questions that you have, and I have some examples from a couple other schools that I can show you as well if we, have some time to do that. So, any questions to start before I jump into the quick overview? All right, awesome. Well, let's get started. So, as you see here, already showing you the homepage here of a checklist that a user might be looking at. So, a user can find any checklists that are assigned to them by navigating to the homepage. And on this homepage, here there's two spots. So, you might have a drop down here that is My Activity, where you can find your checklist right here. Or you might have a different My Activity menu. It might look something like this, where it's already opened up for you. You'll probably have one of these two options. From here, if you click on My Checklist, you'll see all the different checklists that have been assigned to you. So in this case, we're looking at the outside the classroom curriculum. So this is the track here. So this is kind of like the overarching theme for the checklists that are underneath it. The track is optional. You don't need to have a track. You could just have a checklist. But even if you just have one checklist, I still recommend a track. It just looks really nice, and it's a little more user friendly. So the track here is the outside the classroom curriculum. But you'll see here there's checklists that are hosted underneath it. So we have the career prep checklist listed under it. We have the leadership development, initiative and drive, and a few other items here. So this is a track that was kind of built as a way to get people to guide them through an experience outside of the classroom. So getting them to complete other activities in the system. From here, I'll be able to see all the items that have been assigned to me, as well as my progress throughout. So I've completed 7% of the track, but you'll see here in my career prep, I haven't completed any of this yet. The first item that I'll see here is that I need to attend 5 events that help develop my career focus. Um, I can't check this off myself. It's not going to allow me to do that. If I want to check this off, I need to actually go ahead and complete the completion rule for this. So I need to actually go ahead, view the events that are available. You'll see right now there's just two, but as more events are created that meet the rule, they'll show up here. Once I view these events, it might be that I need to register to it. Maybe I need to also check into the event. Then once I complete that item, it will check it off for me. So you do have a lot of automation in checklists. So that way it automates it. It'll check it off for you as they complete the activity. That being said, there might be some tasks in here that you don't need to have a completion rule for it. Maybe it's just something that one, we can't track in our system, or two, you just want to guide them to do it. In that case, you can also create items that are, I can check off on my own. I don't need to actually do anything in the system to do that. So when it comes to what completion rules you can create, you'll see here that I'm going to go into Oh, it looks like I'm missing my orientation one, but there's a lot of examples here. So we can do maybe you need to submit a form, maybe you need to pass a quiz, you need to register to an event, maybe you need to um, schedule an appointment with an advisor, become an officer of a group, upload a profile picture. There's tons of different completion rules that you can set up. And we'll show you how to do that in just a second, but I'll pause for a second here. Any questions so far before we show you how to actually build this out? All right, great. Well, let's keep moving forward then. All right, so you'll see here because I am an officer of a group, I'll see this manage button here. The reason why I'm seeing manage is because I have the ability to actually edit this checklist. So if I click manage here, this is going to bring me to the group that is hosting that checklist, and I can edit it from here. To get to this page, you'll see when you go into your group, you just go into member success here, and here you'll see your tracks and your checklists. To create it, it's pretty easy. You'll see the create track and the create checklist button right here. I'm just going to use ones that are already created though. So you'll see here, we have our outside the classroom, one that we are just looking at. We have the track right here and the checklist underneath it. So if I edit the track here, it's going to give me all the different options here to actually edit it. So first, we'll give it a name and a description. That was what was showing up in that purple section in the example I was showing. We can give it a color. If you don't pick a color, it's just going to use your default color that you have set for your system. And you'll see that there are icons that you can choose. You don't need to. I highly recommend it. It just looks a lot nicer if you choose an icon. So you click change icon and you'll see there are hundreds and hundreds of icons to choose from. There's so many icons that if you search for death, you will find the Deathly Hallows and the Death Star. So many to pick from. If you are stuck, you're not sure what icon to use, I also recommend searching for human. You'll find a lot of different pictures of people waving and doing things. These are good go-tos for you. After that, you can assign the checklist. So if you click on access rights here, you can choose who this is being assigned to. Is it going to everyone in the system? Is it going to just a certain account type? Maybe all undergraduate students are assigned this checklist. Maybe you have a user tag. It can be assigned to just your group members. So there's a lot of different ways that you can assign who actually gets this checklist. You can also do it on an individual checklist level, and we'll show you how that looks in a bit. But when it comes to actually assigning this, a lot of different use cases. It's really big for orientation. That's a really popular one. It can be used for training purposes. We often see people create a group that is like an officer toolkit group. And in that group, they would collect anyone who's an officer of a club gets added to this group, and then they assign the checklist to the members of the group. So that way, if you need to do any officer training or things like that, you can do that here. Also great for competency programs. If you have like diversity training, safe zone training, things like that, or any competencies that you do, checklists are a great way to manage that. We do also have the option here to make it visible to assignees. In most cases, you're going to set this to yes. But if it is something that an assignee shouldn't see, you're creating this checklist just for you to manage on the back end, just to see the data. You can set that to no. And you can also set a date when this actually starts. All right. After that, you then will want to create your checklist. So the checklist here, if we edit this, it's going to see a lot of the same options, a few different things. So the name, description, you'll set that. You can make it sequential, meaning that they have to complete the items in order. In most cases, people set this to no. You can also change the order if you do have multiple checklists, what order you want it to be in. And then again, you have the access rights. So you can assign on the track level. That's going to be the overarching assignment. And then you can be even more specific. So if there's certain checklists that only certain users should see, you can break it down even further. From there, you can again make it visible to assignees, and then you can also set a start and an end date, which means that they need to complete it in that time frame. Once you create the checklist, you'll see here that if I delete this, there's lots of different checklists in here. So if I wanted to assign it to a track, so you'll see here how career prep is nested underneath the track here. And these ones just kind of live on its own. So if I wanted to nest it underneath, I just click on this drop down and I pick where it should be living. All right. Any questions on actually creating it before we actually start to take a look at all the different items that exist? All right. Great. All right. So let's take a look at the career prep checklist here. So if I click into this checklist, it's going to bring me to all the different items that exist. You'll see here, if I try to edit these, it's not going to let me change a lot of the rules here because we've already started collecting data on it. So that's one thing to note is to make sure you finish your checklist before you make it go live, because as you start to collect data, it won't let you edit it. All right, so the first thing that you'll want to do is to create an item. So we'll click create item here. And as part of the career prep, maybe we need to attend a resume workshop. From here, maybe we want to add some details with it. Sign up for the workshop on August 28th. So we can add those details right there. If there's a deadline that they have to complete this item by, we could do that. And then we'll want to say whether this user can check it or not. So in this case, we're going to say no, because we're going to create a completion rule that's going to automate that for us. You can also then make it optional, so that way they can get 100% without actually having to complete every item. So we'll hit save there. And now we'll see that we have our item, and we want to then set a completion rule. If I click on the completion rule, I'll see that I have all of these different rules that exist. So there's a ton to pick from. To start, maybe we'll just say maybe they need to check into an event. From here, I can narrow it down even further. So if I click on the where section, I can go ahead and say maybe it is a event tag. So maybe they need to attend one event that is listed as a fundraising event. Maybe they need to attend 5 of those events that are fun. So you can use it with event tags, but you can also do it with event types. Or if it's even a specific event like this resume workshop, I can just go ahead and type it in and say it is this specific event. And maybe again, it would just be one time. Outside of that, though, there are tons of rules. Pretty much anything that can be completed in the system, there is a rule for. So maybe I need to become an officer of a group, but maybe it's not just becoming an officer, it is becoming a president of one group, or maybe it's becoming an officer of 5 student organizations. I can set all of these rules up right here. There's everything from passing a quiz, completing a form, booking a meeting. You can do completing other tracks and checklists, earning a badge, uploading a profile photo, uploading files, lots and lots of things to pick from here. The one other one I did want to show you here is sub items as well. So you'll see here, maybe you need to attend, one of 5 options. If you want to do something like that, this item could be attend one of the following events, and your completion role would be, here I'll go to here. It would be completes a sub item. So in this case, I could say they need to complete one sub item that are, these specific items. From there, I can then create sub items. I just click on the 3-dot menu here and click add sub item. And that's how we get this career activity 1 listed here. So great way if you do have to say like complete 2 of the 5 things, you would use sub items in order to do that. All right, I will pause for a second. Any questions on how to actually complete and create these different checklist items?
I have a quick question, and we've asked this before, so I think the answer is not right now, but maybe it's on the horizon. We use checklists a lot for our club officers, like you were saying before, and one thing we've been trying to figure out is like some of the things they have to do are for their club as a whole. Like their club has to host an event
Mm.
and such. So like right now we're tracking those things on our end and manually checking that off for every student within the club once their club does that thing. But is there a way, or maybe coming down the pipeline, a way to kind of like assign a checklist to a group as a whole? Like,
Um, not right now. And I'm not familiar with any plans to add that now. It's something we can talk with our product team about. But there are some like workarounds for that, I guess. There is the um, registration and re-registration process. You can assign checklists to all the officers of the group, but it'll go to all the officers who are part of the registration process. So that's one way if you had like officer training that's required. That's one way you can do it. There is also badges which do exist on a group level. So that's another way you can do it, but there's not as many completion rules for it. So if I were to go to badges here, we'll see. Let's see. I probably have a group 1 created. Maybe not. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll create a group badge. So maybe they need to, create 5 events as a group. Just add that in the description. Um, with the badges, you can add icons. I like to always point these out though, because there's so many great free icons that you can choose from. I'll just use this one for now. Um, and then you can like add it to your LinkedIn if you want that. But here we would set this to a group badge instead, and we'll click save. From here, if we now have created the group badge, you can create completion rules that are for groups. So maybe they need to organize a certain amount of events, they need to create a survey, but we can't necessarily say, one person in your group needs to complete a form because that is
Mhm.
based on the user side and
Yeah,
not on the group side. So you do have some workarounds for on the group side, but not as much functionality and as many completion rules as users do.
gotcha.
Yeah, one other thing I will point out with the tracks and checklists as well, I'll go into this. If you do have any items where you're like, there's no completion rule for this, the workaround typically is to just do a form. So, one example is maybe they need to attend a workshop that's like outside of our system. There's no way for us to track it. Um, or maybe it's like submitting a FAFSA form or something like that. It's not something our system can track. In that case, I usually recommend just going with the completing a survey or form. And then you can also have an approval process for it. So maybe they need to, this workshop that they attended, you can have a form where they answer a bunch of questions, write a reflection, do all of those things. And then once it's approved through a workflow, then that's how you can get that approval process set up. All right. I did want to save time for all of your questions. Otherwise, I can, if there aren't any questions right now, I can show you a couple examples of some other schools and what they're doing.
Sorry, I'm just popping on the video. I was finishing up lunch. I did have one question. So we started with campus groups about 2 years ago, and then in that first year or so, it was really focusing on getting some automatic procedures in place, like getting the students uploaded and getting the student organizations just on the platform more efficiently. And then this year, we're looking more at how we can engage the different offices on campus. So we have a number of offices that are coming onto the platform, and they each have just a wide range of reasons as to why they want to use our platform. Um, in looking at tracks and checklist, and then even thinking about like emails and forms, um, what type of, I guess if they're not considered to be like we have an office and they have all of their officers, which are like staff members, do they all have access to like all of our students and being able to like email this out to all of our first year students or send a track and checklist to all of the first year students, or is it just based on how it's labeled? So I guess my question is about like that general access for people, like I'm like the super admin, but for just regular staff members.
Yeah, I would say for when it comes to events and tracks and checklists, you can have access rights to pretty much all the users. Because you might have a public checklist that anyone can complete, right? Or you might have an event that's open to the public. So those are the two spots where it's really like you have access to everyone. You can't really email them. You can't, there's no like contacting of those users. It's more who just has access to this content. When it comes to all the other features, they only have access to their members. So if it was like an email, you'll see whenever you try to create an email, it's only going to allow you to choose recipients who are a member of your group. I can't send this out to the entire system. I can't mass notify pretty much anywhere in the system unless I'm an admin. So there are limitations, definitely. I guess badges as well. That's one other spot where anyone can really earn those.
Okay. So then thinking like for example, we have our Career and Professional Development Center. If they wanted to send out an invitation for an event or a checklist, they wouldn't be able to necessarily choose a larger, like for I'm just using an example, but for the first year students, but they could, if they obtained a list, like an email list, they could paste, like do like copy and paste an email list.
Yeah,
So
they
as long
could
as they
like
have, yeah.
yeah, they could send an email and have like the link to these items, somewhere. I will say though, as an admin here, when I pull this up, you'll see if I go to users here, as an admin, I can email everyone. And then when I send that email, it's going to ask me who's sending the group. So maybe in that case, you can have an admin come in, actually send it. It will still show like it's coming from Career Center, but they don't have that full access to just blast it. That
Mhm.
being said, though, a group like the Career Center, it might make sense to say, hey, anyone who's an undergraduate student, you're going to be added to this group. So one way you can do that here is settings within your group, and then you go to advanced. Now, only an admin can set this up, but you do have this collect users option. So maybe you want to say all undergraduate students are added to this group. And then you can assign a checklist or, send an email and all that. Then they have access to anyone because they're a member of the group. The one other thing I mentioned earlier was collecting officers. So maybe you want to collect anyone who's an officer of a student organization. That will automatically pull them into the group. And then there's also settings to say, hey, you can't leave the group. So obviously, a club or organization's not going to have that. But, a department like a career center, it might make sense to force everyone to be a part of that.
Yeah, that just like that was really helpful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, only admins can do this. So a club can't go ahead and set these settings, but you can do it for them, and then it really will force them to be a part of it.
Yeah, that was actually like what I was experiencing, and like I was finding myself hesitating in how I was answering questions about some of the features, like including the tracks in the checklist, just because of that. I didn't understand the barrier of like what boxes I needed to click. So that actually answered the question for me. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
That was really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Otherwise, I can jump into some examples from a couple schools. Awesome. Cool. Well, let's jump into that. So I pulled up here Wharton. So Wharton College, or university, they have this sophomore experience that they've done. It looks like they're actually working on rebuilding it out for the new year, but they have this checklist that they've built out. So they essentially wanted to engage with sophomores and, kind of guide sophomores to being more engaged. So they created this track. So what they did here, if we preview it, is we'll see that they kind of created a point system. No one actually ends up getting 100% for this, but they've built out this like gamified system where once you get 3 points, you earn a duffel bag, 5 points water bottle, 8 points for a hat, and then the top 5% all get to go to this cool reception with alumni and get a dinner and all that. So what they did for this was created all these different sections. So for each item that they completed, they got a point. So they have an academic preparation checklist, they have career exploration, all these different items. And now they're clearly not completing all these. This is a lot of content. But if they complete 3, they get that duffel bag. So the way that they've built this out is here's all the eligible items. Here's the event that you need to book. Here's the meeting you need to book, and so on. From here, they then track it by using badges. So they've created a level 1, 2, and 3 badge. So 1 is the water bottle, I think, and then the duffel bag, and so on. So you'll see 321 people have completed at least 3 items. So the way that they build it out is this completion rule, which says, hey, you completed a checklist item from this. So once you complete 3 items from any of these checklists, you then get this badge. And then this is 5 and that is 8. And then, yes, obviously, there's all the different reporting techniques here. So you can then find the reports and find out who's in the top 5%. So this is a really unique way that it's been used that, isn't a typical use case. The other example I have here is Warrior Life. This is CSU Stanislaus, and they are using it for a lot of their competencies. So they have these 2 levels of leadership badges. They have civic engagement, diversity inclusion, all these different competency programs that they're doing. And essentially, when you complete the completion rule, you then get the badge. And they've created all custom badges. So yes, there are all these badges that exist already, but we do have these custom ones right here. So they created their custom badge. And you'll see here the completion rule is that they completed the advanced leader checklist. It looks like they just reset there, so they don't have a lot of completion right now. So I think they reset it for the year. But if we go into the tracks and checklists, you'll see that they have these emerging leader checklists. So if we take a look at this one, here it kind of goes through all the different items that they need to do. And here they do need to get 100%. Once they get 100%, they then get the badge. So they need to attend 6 workshops. This is an example where they aren't actually checking people in. Instead, they need to submit a form. And in that form, they get a reflection, they get approval, and then it checks the item off for them. So they're using forms for this. They also are using it for service hours. So once they complete their 10 service hours, then it automatically checks it off for them. And they also added some instructions on how to actually log all of this as well. And then just more forms. So this is a pretty basic one because they're using forms, but it's a great example of how you can do this for competency programs. Like I said, orientation is the big one. You know, they need to attend certain events. And then maybe they need to watch a video. There's also videos that you can add in here. And, you know, sometimes you even say, watch this video, also pass this quiz and submit a reflection. So you could have 3 different items just for that video.
I have a quick question. You said it was Wharton was the
Yes.
other.
Mhm.
In that example, for 3 points, 5 points, 8 points, is there a way that those points, and I'm looking where it says points can be earned in one category or across, how are they managing like the point system in that? Is that just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, that's all through the badges. So I guess they can do reporting to see how many items a person checked off. So that's one way to see it. It's like, all right, these people all earned, you know, this many points because they completed 5 items, but the badge is automated because the badge here with this completion rule is saying they've completed 3 checklist items from those checklists.
So just a short, I know we're running out of time, but just what we're working on, our athletics department want to have what they're calling we're the Tartans. So it's the Tartan Rewards program where any student that would attend like a sporting event, they would get a certain number of points and they want to track the participation or attendance at all of these available events. So in this case, they would be able to create a track that has all of the listed events for all fall sports. And if they attend at least 3 or at least 5, or like you could track it that way and you could see the completion rate based on events that they checked in for. Does that sound correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll also say too, so this is like they have points, but it's kind of just like how they're calling it points. It not to be confused in our system, we do also have points, but points are on the admin side and it applies across all groups and all users. So that's under engagement here. And you'll see there's like a user leaderboard, so you can see who has the most points all right here. But if I go into points, this is where I can customize and create points in the system. So the issue with this is across all users. So it's difficult if like you just want athletics to do it because they'll be earning a lot of points through athletics, but it's not across the whole system. But it works the same way as badges and tracks and checklists. You essentially create the, you know, what the point is right here, give it a name, how many times you can win it, and how many points it's worth. And then you set the completion rule. So it's all the same rules that you'll see in tracks and checklists, all the same abilities right here. And this is how you can kind of gamify it a little bit. But in your case, since it's just athletics, it's not like an overarching thing. I'd probably go the tracks and checklist route because then it's just with athletics. Whereas otherwise, we'll be getting all these points for athletics and all these other things will probably get like, you know, swept under the table.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Cool. I think we have like 2 more minutes. So any other questions for me?
Do you find, because I've been working on a badge system for some competency things that we're doing, and I didn't think to like link it to a checklist. So does that typically work better for folks? Like, is that better on the assessment end at the end to have the badges linked to a checklist? Because
I
right now
would say,
it's just like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, typically because like yeah, you could have like 20 badges, right? For like maybe just your diversity training, or you could have one badge that then has that checklist that has all the different 20 items.
Makes sense.
That way you can have like multiple items connected to it.
Hmm.
And then yeah, you can then have that badge linked into your LinkedIn. So that way once you complete the checklist, that's typically how we see it. Great for competencies, though.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I'll also point out we do have tons and tons of resources for you. So if you're looking for like a tutorial, we have a tracks and checklist tutorial that exists in our user community. It's like 5 minutes long. So if you're trying to like send this a quick version to like one of your offices to be like, hey, here's how to do this, you can find that right in our user community. Let me sign in here. And in here, you'll see our video library right here. And here you'll see all tutorials and things like that. So that would probably be, I think, an officer tutorial here. And if you just search for it, you'll see these tutorials are super helpful because they're all pretty short. This one's 12 minutes. So, but you don't have to watch like a whole webinar to kind of get a good understanding of how it works. So I highly recommend all of these resources here. Also, we do have some like really great campus spotlights as well. If you come into here, the all videos, you'll see some examples from other schools and stuff. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. I assume we're going to get cut any second now, but thank you for joining. I'll be here for until we get cut if you have any other questions.